So recently I saw a drama film called Queen of the Ring, a new wrestling film in theaters that came out just a few weeks ago. Heard a few reviews on it and I decided to check it out. And I didn't see a trailer going into this, so I went into it pretty fresh. Hey everyone, my name is Ryan. Thank you guys for clicking on this video. If you're new to this channel, definitely hit that subscribe button. I do reviews like this all the time on the channel and I would love to have you join the channel. And if you're returning, I appreciate it as well. Now this film, it was directed by Avildsen, and he's done two other films, Paradise City and American Satan. I have never seen either one of them. He is a CEO of a metal record company called Sumerian Records, so I thought that was really cool that he was directing this film because it just didn't seem like he would be doing a film like this. So very cool. This film, it stars Emily Bett Rickards, Walter Goggins, Tyler Posey, Francesca Eastwood, and many others. This film, it is about women wrestling not really being accepted during the 1940s and 50s, and you have this woman named Mildred Burke, who is a single mother and struggling, and she works at a diner, and she's very much interested in becoming a wrestler. Now, ultimately, I have been kind of in and out of wrestling all out my life, but I really wanted to check this film out because there are some really good wrestling films out there, and I haven't really heard anything about this other than maybe like a couple reviews around YouTube, so I was very interested to check it out. Now, I'll start off by saying from a positive standpoint, I do like the fact that they do explain wrestling. So like if you don't know wrestling whatsoever, they talk about different moves here. They show like different terms like the good versus the bad guy. You can root for the main character, Mildred Burke, because she's coming from a really nothing, like single mother, has a child, working at a diner, she's living with her mother. I mean, you can definitely get behind the underdog. So on that front, like I really did actually enjoy that aspect. And the fact that we get wrestling here. I mean, like in the beginning of this film, I do think like some of the moves are pretty cool. They actually start off here in which you have Mildred who meets this guy who travels around in a carnival, and he sets up a ring at this carnival. And each time he's there, he has Mildred who is basically just beating up all these different guys, and she starts to have a romantic relationship with Josh Lucas's character. And she does this for several years because we see her child actually grow up. I believe he's like a teenager when she starts to kind of take a turn of which really shakes up the movie a little bit, but for a while they're just kind of going around from city to city and they're just kind of trying to make it and trying to make women's wrestling popular. And then the fact that in certain places it's not really accepted, so you kind of have that whole thing going on in the background. Now from that point, that was probably about maybe 30-40 minutes into the movie, because this movie is over 2 hours and 15 minutes. And then you have Francesca Eastwood's character come in, who she plays Mae Young in this, and I like her as an actress, but when she comes in, she's introduced, and then there's this other woman that comes in and she's introduced, and then you have Josh Lucas's character who starts to be infatuated by all these women actually joining, so he's like, yeah, sure, like sign up, that's great. Now Francesca Eastwood's character here, she has nothing to do throughout the entirety of this movie. She doesn't really do anything. She just kind of appears, but nothing like really for her to do throughout this film. The other woman that appears in this carnival, she starts to have feelings for Josh Lucas as well, and they have an affair. And then you have the main woman, Mildred, here get really ticked about it, but then just kind of brush it off. And then that's where the problems for this film start to really mount up and really start to add up, because I like Mildred's character, but then they do kind of weird things with her character because she's like a strong character. She's very strong-willed and sticks to her guns, but then like she seems kind of soft at certain points, and they kind of do like strange things with her character. For instance, with the fact that Josh Lucas has an affair with this woman, she kind of just brushes it off and just like, okay. Then he also talks back to her. He actually slaps her around and punches her. And eventually she leaves. She gets the strong will to leave from this life. And she goes back home and she's like, yeah, I'm done with this. I'm done with him. I'm good. At this point, her son is a teenager at this point. So he's growing up. And so he he's really seeing what's really going on. Then you have Josh Lucas coming back to her house, and he's like, yeah, I really have this like competitor that really wants to fight you. You should come back. And then she just kind of downplays like everything that just happened and just erases all that. And that's kind of how this film is. Like, there's a lot of scenes in this film where stuff is really erased. There's certain emotions within this film that they kind of put on a front, where in one scene there is someone that actually has a really bad accident and actually passes away. And there's not like a lot of impact with that. And that's kind of like my problem with this film as well, is there's certain events that they show and you're like, okay, so where do we go from here? They cut and like edit this and kind of paste it in like a misdirected type of direction, which, man, I wasn't a fan of. It feels very much like a TV movie, kind of all over the place. I think definitely because of like the director and like the editing and everything here. It feels very amateurish. It feels like it's just not very well put together. And one of the things that is really bugging me throughout this film is, so Josh Lucas, he's always looking for the next big thing. So like each woman he's kind of flirting with and bringing along within this whole company, because eventually they start to actually have like a small like little place where they actually have matches. So he's always bringing on the next woman that's like the next big thing, and each time he brings along all these women, they have nothing to do with this script. They don't carry the film whatsoever. And then you have other characters that pop up and you go, oh yeah, like she was in the movie like forever ago, I forgot about her. And because that kind of just repeats itself throughout, it's very hard to really buy into this like women movement. The other thing too is, I said that wrestling for women isn't really widely accepted during these times. I didn't really feel like I got the gist of that. I didn't feel like we have this like strong commitment to not make women's wrestling like a big thing. Like there's one scene, and I believe this is like the NWA, I believe, and they have like this meeting, and they talk about, women wrestling. They don't want it on their program. They don't want like certain drama on their program. And that whole like meeting, like I guess is like the big drama thing. Though I will say there's a point in there where they point out Vince McMahon is in that meeting, and the guy looked nothing like Vince McMahon. It was this short, like little fat stubby guy, and I was like, that's not Vince McMahon, come on. So like little cheap things like that where, you got to do your research just like a little bit. I mean, I understand like Vince McMahon isn't like the target in here. He just has like one little brief little scene, but like when I saw that, I was like, no, like that is definitely not Vince McMahon. So like little things like that just, I don't know, they just didn't really make sense to me. And then like, as this film being 2 hours and 15 minutes, I feel like at times it is kind of like in the beginning, it's more like about the wrestling and kind of like Mildred and her really kind of building up to being this wrestler. And then in the middle of the film, so that really is where a lot of the drama is. So in this film, Mildred actually marries Josh Lucas's character. And so they're kind of sharing like the wealth here and sharing like the program. And so Mildred's kind of like on top, and she's got the belt and everything like that. But then Josh Lucas, he's always flirting with the next big thing, so he treats her like crap. And then meanwhile, his son is involved, played by Tyler Posey. And so he's involved in this program as well. He never lets his son really have much of a say or really anything like that. But then they have this side story where the son is flirting with Mildred, and he really loves her and wants to be with her. Meanwhile, knowing that his father is married to her, though seeing that the father is treating her like crap, they don't do anything with that story. Like, it's literally in the middle of the film, they spend all this time on it, and then it just kind of disappears. And then later on in the third act, we find out where Tyler Posey is as far as where he is in his relationship, and they kind of reveal like what's going on with that. And I was like, oh, okay, like I didn't know that. So cutting and pasting like how this is and how it's really misguided and misdirected, it was really sloppy. I felt at times it was just very unfocused from the wrestling, a little bit too much in the drama in the middle of the film, and then kind of going back to wrestling, in which I would say like the final match is probably like the best match out of them all, because it's like hard-hitting action for women. I wish there was some finishing moves in here, maybe some entrances or some music with those entrances, or like some character development with these women, or telling like a story within the ring with these women. They don't do any of that. It's just kind of like basic wrestling. And like I said, like the last match in the third act is really like the best match in the entire thing of the movie. So as far as a score for this movie, I can only give it like a 2 out of 5. You know, it's just very kind of amateurish, very TV movie-ish. I really recommend, if you want to watch a wrestling film, The Wrestler, I would say The Iron Claw, Fighting with My Family. Those films I would stick to. This one, if you want to watch it, streaming's fine, but I wouldn't pay like any top dollar to check this out, because it wasn't all that great, but it does have some really cool elements, I would say, but overall it wasn't all that great. And also Gorgeous George was in this as well, and he has like one of the worst wigs, and he doesn't really have much going on as far as his character. He has a few scenes, but they don't really do a whole lot with him either. So overall I was kind of disappointed with this. It wasn't completely terrible, but it wasn't great either. So what are your thoughts on Queen of the Ring? Let me know in the comments. What did you think? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you just think it was kind of meh? Thank you guys for watching as always, and I will see you guys next time.